Hey guys, I am here with Cara. I don't know if you had a chance, but her presentation was live just a little bit earlier today. Cara, thank you so much for helping us out and doing this with us.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I was saying yesterday, I was on a live with someone else, and we were talking about how back to school time, especially for moms, it's like our Super Bowl, right? Like it's New Year's and back to school season. So it's nice to have resources that you're giving to people when they really just need to like ramp things up and get things, kind of going.
Yeah, and I know you and I were just talking about, it's that time where you're like, the summer was nice and the vacations are nice, but you're trying to get back into your regular routine again. So this seems like a great time, for everyone to get some tips from some of our favorite experts on that.
100%.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, how you got started with your social media presence and sort of what you do to help moms out with this?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Cara Harvey. I see a bunch of people saying hey in the chat. So if you're watching live, feel free to say hi. And then again on the replay, let me know you're here. I'm in the group, so you can tag me if you're watching later. But I am the founder of A Purpose Driven Mom, and I am a former burnt out school teacher. I was in the classroom for about 9 years as a special education teacher. And I became an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't plan on starting a business. I didn't want to start a business. I was thinking about starting a business, but I just knew I couldn't do what I was doing teaching anymore. My anxiety was high. I was like crying in the car. I lost myself. And so right around that final year, I was able to make income with network marketing, and I left teaching. And I was in full-time network marketing for about 3 years. And on the outside, I always tell people it looked really successful, right? 6-figure business, 250 people on my team, like the whole thing you want for marketing. But on the inside, I was absolutely drowning because I was doing all the same things that burnt me out as a teacher, right? Inbox zero every night. I was carrying my laptop around my house. Like I was glued to my phone. And I just thought something has to change. So when my son, my youngest, so my kids are now, my baby is going to be 6 in a couple weeks. He actually lost his first tooth this morning. So I'm like having a hard time. He's going to kindergarten. Like the feels are there. So my kids are almost 6. Actually, they all have birthdays in the next few months. So almost 6, almost 8, and almost 17. But when my youngest was born, 2 weeks old, I was sitting there and I said, I need to do something different. So over a boppy pillow while I was nursing him at 3 a.m, I bought a domain and I thought, let's give this thing a try. And I just tried to just be like a mom blogger for a while, figure it out for a couple of years. And around my 3rd year of that, I decided that I was going to really help moms with productivity, because what I found was some of the stuff I was doing, while it came easily to me, was not second nature to everyone else. And the other thing that I noticed was out there in the world, and I don't know if anyone else notices this, but it is very like this masculine energy around productivity, right? Like get up at 5 a.m. or you're failing, like go big or go home. You have to hustle or you're a bad mom. And everything was rooted in shame, and it was rooted in just honestly just I feel like making moms feel bad, and there was nothing really out there for us. And so I decided to switch over and decide to start A Purpose Driven Mom. And now I get to help, in particular right now I help work at home moms figure out how to manage their time with their goals, their personal lives, and their business without hustle, without shame, without burnout. And I'm the host of the Purpose Driven Mom podcast and the author of the book The 15-Minute Formula.
Awesome. I think it's so interesting because 2 of the moms that already, talked about their presentation and how they got started, and I myself, all 4 were sort of like, I wasn't trying to start this business, or,
Yep.
you know what I mean? It was both like, everyone was kind of like, I'm, burned out or not doing the corporate thing. I got to do something. I don't know. Let me start social media or a blog or whatever. And then, it just kind of like went from there.
I know it's super common. I've also found a lot of people that are in the teacher to network marketing to entrepreneur pipeline. That's a very common one that I've noticed as well. And I think what it is we finally get to the point where we're like, I need to take care of me, but I also want something that brings in income and is fulfilling, but I can't do this like and be mom. Like it doesn't feel aligned. So I think it's very common for us.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question from a Facebook user here. How do you transition yourself from rust to push? I feel like I definitely default to rust, and push is so hard for me. Then nothing gets done.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so if you didn't get to watch my session, I'm going to kind of just cliff notes a little bit of the seasons, and then I'm going to answer this because this is actually very real time for me this summer and what my summer has looked like and a lesson I learned. So I'll share that in real time. In my session, I talk about the 4 seasons, and I want us first to just like break up with the calendar. I know 4 seasons: winter, summer, spring, fall. We want everything to be equal math. You can customize this, okay? But there's 4 seasons that I recommend you have in your day, week, your month, your quarter, your year. You kind of break down. We've got our season of push, which is what this person is sharing here. And that's kind of where you're like going in on projects, something big is happening. You're like really focused in on whatever you got to get done, right? I was sharing before on that, like my son's birthday party is Saturday. So like I'm in this season of push to like get my house ready and stuff like that. Then there's a season of rest where you relax and you rest, because we're allowed to do that too, right? You have downtime so that you don't burn out. We've got a season of fun, which is equally as important, and can overlap with our rest, but it's where we're intentionally just doing something for us that we enjoy. And then a season of planning, where we're sitting and getting ourselves prepared for the next week or the next quarter, or breaking down goals. And so I recommend that you have all of those, and you can have all of those in your week or your quarter. And I talk about that in the session. But for this question in particular, each of us defaults to a certain season. And I think there's just been this, I don't know, like message out there that like what you default to is wrong. And so I want to just encourage you that whatever your default is, it's just how you're wired, right? Like you may be defaulting to rest because you need more of that. And I think I share this in session, but I default to push. Like I enjoy push. Like I like to do more. I like to keep myself active and busy. Those things drive me. Now, my husband is the exact opposite of me, right? He needs more rest or he will feel burnt out. But just because I default to to push, doesn't mean I can't have any rest. Because if I don't, what's going to happen? I'm going to burn out. I'm going to be resentful. I'm going to be snapping at my kids. Like all those things are going to happen. So I just want to first acknowledge whatever you default to, it's what you default to, and make sure you have enough of what you need into your week. Now, the transitioning. I think what's really important here is to give yourself some deadlines. We're really good at external deadlines. This is due for someone else. I have to hand this paperwork in. This is my work task. But when it comes to our own things, our own personal goals, I was just talking to a mom on one of my programs yesterday, and she has a decluttering goal. And I was like, she's like, I have 14 boxes to go through. And I said, all right, well, when do you want to have it done by? And she was like, I mean, I don't really need it done. And I'm like, no, we need to pick a deadline, because what is very common is let's push back the things for us. Let's push back the things for us. Give yourself a deadline, and then it becomes something that's more real. So I would say when you're transitioning into a push season, week, time block in your day, you have one, when you want it to start, right? So that you can actually transition. And then you have a couple goals that you want to accomplish during that push season. So if you know that, say we're looking at your day, all 4 seasons should happen like in your day at some point, or your week. If you say, during the week, I know that I am going to be pushing really hard on this specific goal on Thursday, these are the 3 things I want to accomplish. And so that way your brain now, it makes it real. There's this part of our brain, right? The reticular activating system. It's like the front up here somewhere, right? Not a brain scientist, but the brain stuff is really cool to me because it's true. When you start to vocalize and visualize your goals, your brain opens up to seeing the possibilities. So it's like, I want to go get a white Kia, and then I'm driving, and then I see all the white Kias that I never noticed actually existed. It's that same part of the brain, right? So when you say to yourself, this is my goal, I know that on Thursday, I'm going to have a push day where I'm going to be in my office getting all my stuff done, or I'm going to really go into the garage and get that decluttering done, then your brain knows what it's going to be doing, right? Because otherwise that time can be wasted very easily, not intentionally, but easily. So I would say when you're transitioning, 1 is deadline, 2 is a concrete goal of when you want it to happen. And because you're telling me that you default to rest, my 3rd advice would be, I want you to plan out when your next rest season, again, time block, week, whatever, when that is. Because that way, as someone who needs more rest, you know that the push is short-lived. You know that you have the thing that you need coming up, and you look forward to it a little bit more. And I think it's also the observation of, how does this work? What do I need, et cetera? And I said, I have a real-time example. So for me, we host a summit in June. It's like our big thing. It's like push, push, push. So May and June are push months in my business. Like we're just going. It's very hard. My family knows this. I'm like, fend for yourself. We got it. So I always like to have July be my rest and my fun, like theme for the month. It doesn't mean I'm not working at all. I work very light. It's very intentional, and it was very enjoyable. But I noticed this year, I got to August and I felt scrambled because I was like, oh, I have to get into plan mode. Like I told myself the first week of August was going to be planning, so I can spend the time after my rest, like getting everything so that I can slowly gear up for push again when September starts. But I felt too loose. Like I didn't have enough of a plan. So what I'm actually going to do next year is after I have my push months is I'm going to put my plan week in between and then go into rest. My body wanted to rest. It was tired. It was like, I really want to, but I want to make a plan for when my rest is done. So I share that with you to say, like, I was there too, where I didn't have when the next was happening and I felt really scrambled. And so it's just kind of paying attention to those things and just like a fun tool you could use. So a little tangent on this, but I was coaching someone through this the other day because we were talking about something similar. And she was saying, I want to remember next summer this. Like, you know, you maybe have said that. Like, I want to remember, I want to do this next summer. I want to set myself up for this, or I don't want to forget this. I use a tool. It's called futureme.org. It's a free website. You can go and write yourself a letter and have it emailed to you in the future. And so one of the ways I use this tool a few ways, but one of the things I'm going to be doing this week, actually, before my kids go back to school, is I'm going to write myself a letter of all the things I wish I remembered about the summer that I wanted to, like, I wish I had planned a little bit more. These were the weeks I really wish my kids were at camp versus not at camp because they're not at camp every week, et cetera. And I'm going to send that to myself in May so that it comes out in May and reminds me of all those things before I go into planning. So as you're maybe using this new tool I talked about today with the 4 seasons, feel it out. How does that feel for you? What do you need more of? And then you can use it's futureme.org. You can go there and write yourself a letter for next week, right? I plan on Sundays. You can have this letter come out Sunday morning before you plan for the week to say, hey, listen, this week was whatever. Don't forget these things. And you can also send these letters in like the affirmative. Like, I'm really proud of you. This was a really hard week. This is how you showed up. Like, don't forget your progress. So I like to use it in a few ways, but I just feel like right now, especially as we're gearing into back to school season, what was your season like this summer? What felt good to you? What didn't? Did you have enough plan, push, rest, and fun? And then think about the gift you want to give to you next year and send yourself a letter for May. Just a reminder, I wish we had a little more fun. And this is what I did actually. So last year, my kids typically go to camp all 10 weeks because you have to like pay for the whole camp or not. And I felt like our summer didn't start until 4 p.m. And I missed that. I was like, I want to hang out with my kids, like, or whatever. So I sent myself a letter in January because that's when camp sign up is. And it was like right after winter break. And it said, Cara, I know the kids are annoying you right now because they've just been home for 10 days, but you do not want to send them to camp for the whole summer. So don't do it. And like, it felt so silly, but I just wanted to remember that I was coming off a season where I knew I'd be like, go back to school. Like, I did not want you home. To remind myself that in the summer, I do want them home more. So then this year we did 5 weeks camp, 5 weeks no camp. So it's just a cool tool, but just a recommendation of as you're learning how much of each season you need to just give yourself that little reflect in so that you can plan appropriately.
That's a really cool app. I have not heard of that before, but it makes sense when you're like cool-headed to write yourself something to remind yourself when you're in that like frantic stage. I wanted to touch on 2 points of the things you went over. One, the deadline thing I think is like so important. And like I myself have ADHD and I know there's a lot of moms with that late diagnosis, you know, that like it finally got to a point like I'm a mom and now like it's not just about me, like missing deadlines and stuff is not just about me anymore. It's like about all these people I'm in charge of. And I have found doing that on a smaller level, like even if I can't get a task started, I'm like, I'm just going to set a timer. So like my kitchen needs to be clean. I don't feel like doing it. I don't have that like internal motivation because of the way my brain works. I'm just going to set a 10-minute timer, clean for 10 minutes. Like, and that's, you know, as if I get 10 minutes done, that'll be like good. And then once you get into it, and it's 10 minutes and you're like halfway through, you usually are like, okay, I'll just like go ahead and finish.
Yes.
But for me, those timers are like, so important. And like I love that, you know, Alexa, you just like shout at her. I just activated her, but and you know, you can just like say it and then it happens. So I like that deadline idea. The other thing I wanted to ask you is a lot of times, and I think a lot of moms can probably relate to this, even if you set your own deadline, like let's use your example of like, oh, okay, I'm going to declutter my garage, for example. It doesn't always depend on you. Like I could be like super focused. This is happening Saturday. It's happening. I told my husband, he's like, yeah, it's super happening. And then Saturday comes and he's like, oh, you know, I'm tired. Or like my friend buddy called me to like do this. How do you handle that with your family when it's not just like, it doesn't just fall on you, but it falls on someone else and you need them to be motivated as well?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things here. I think there's a proactive and a reactive strategy for this, right? So I think proactively, before you enroll any family member into your vision, there's a few things I always try to remind myself. They're all really annoying, but I have to. my goals are going to be most important to me, and they might not care about them like me. And I hate that. You need to care, right? Like they should care as much as I care about this thing happening. They don't. And I have to remind myself that, because I'll get really frustrated, right? And I'll get mad about it. So I think first things first, they don't care that much. So if you want to, and think of it this way, literally enroll them into the vision for the goal. That's what you need to do. So it's saying to them, again, before the goal happens, hey, I wanted to work on the garage this weekend because I want to use that space to bring the car in, and there's stuff everywhere and it's making me feel really stressed out. And I think that if we get it organized a little bit more, I would feel less stressed out at home. And I think that it would be really helpful. Like, put it on you, right? Like, what benefits would this have for you? And how you need their help. I really need your help with this though, because I don't want to get rid of your stuff that's important for you, right? Or pump up an ego, but like, I can't move all these things without you. So would you be able to give time? And then also making it more specific than, we're going to do the garage on Saturday. I would say, listen, from 10 to 11, you don't even have to do a big gap. I know we want to be like, I've got all Saturday free, so I'm going to do this. But I was just talking to a friend this morning, and same thing. We were saying, when I have more on my schedule, when it's a little bit tighter, I get more done, right? So if I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to take Saturday to do it, I'm going to wait and wait and wait and wait. And then it's 9 o'clock at night, and then I don't care. And then I'm not going to go out and do it. So by making it an even shorter amount, saying, from 10 to 11, I wanted to spend some time in the garage getting things decluttered. I really needed your help. Are you free from that time? Like, very specific. What will most likely happen is, if you want to spend more time, they might, like, you'll just get on a roll and keep going. But that way it's not, oh, I need you to give me your entire Saturday. It's like, I need you from this time period. It's really important to me. Just that 1 hour. Can I have that? Right. So these are like proactive things that set me up for less arguments, less fight, and getting like the people on board. Now, reactively, we get to Saturday. It's 10 to 11. I've done all of these things. And my husband is like, I'm going to go wash my car or something, whatever. My sister and I joke, because we have my son's birthday party Saturday. She's like, so what chore do you think your husband's going to do in the morning before the party? You think I was like, exactly. I was like, maybe he'll go to the doctor, takes his car in for, like, how they do it. Like, it's like, why? So we know this. So instead of getting frustrated, it's saying, like, a half hour before, if we're not together, if we're like in separate spots, I might even text him, right? Or like walk over, listen, I'm going to go in the office at 10. We're still good for that, right? And if he said to me, oh, I needed to go get my car washed, this is where we kind of use those I statements to not like shame, because we're not their parent, but also to like say, like, oh, I hear you. I know that we talked about this and you said you could give me from 10 to 11. Is there a way you could just go get your car washed when we're done? I really needed your help for that hour, right? And just, I needed this, like this, and trying to be calm. Now, I say this very calmly right now. It doesn't always happen or come out that way, right? It could be an eye roll or a stomp or all those things that like I don't want to be doing. But in an ideal world, just using that statement. So I think when it comes to our kids and our partners, when we need help with it, it's starting with our vision, enrolling them into it, and then kind of going back to our vision to help get them in. It's not going to work out perfectly every time, but these are just some tips that might help.
That's great. Some people are asking the website, I believe it was futureme.org, right?
Yeah, futureme.org.
Okay, futureme.org. And someone dropped it in the comments, and I will just write it on our next post too, so everyone knows that. We'll take this one more question, because I know we're running short on time, and Cara has so much good information.
I know. I'm sorry. I should have said that. I'm like, I talk really fast, and I'm kind of a fire hose.
No, it's good. It's good. Everyone, we want your brain. We want the tips. Yeah. So you mentioned listening to a podcast or audiobook while doing other tasks. Does that count as your learning block?
Oh, Christine, this is a great question. So in the video, I talk about planning and how I always say, like, 15 minutes a day for learning is what I like to do. I 100% will count those things as my learning. You can have separate. When you're going into your learning for whatever it is, there's two different types of learning, right? There's the mindset work and there's skill development. Okay. So mindset work is like, maybe I'm listening to an audiobook on trying to be more confident or things like that. Skill development is like, I want to learn, like I'm taking a decluttering course right now because I'm decluttering my home. We're going to Italy in April. So I'm going to start like some Duolingo and like learning a language. Like that might be my learning block as well. So look at it both ways. And you can 100% count it. But I will say, there are some things that I prefer to sit at my computer and like I'm learning. Like when I went to get my life coach certification, I was like, I need to sit in front of the computer like it is a class with my notes because I'm not going to absorb it the same way. So I would say pre-identify for you, what do you want it to look like for you in this season? It can change. when it's the summer, I don't have as much learning time because my kids are around, there's a lot more noise and stuff, but I can pop in my headphones while I'm cleaning, cooking dinner or whatever. You know, if they're at the park riding bikes and I'm sitting there or whatever, I still can do those things. So it's asking yourself, moving into the next month, what does my season look like? What type of learning do I want to do? What would success look like for me? And then deciding. So, I mean, one, yes, I completely count podcasts or audiobooks as you're learning. Block, there's no right or wrong. And I think anybody who tells you there is needs to work on their growth mindset, right? Of it can look how you need it to look, but also just asking yourself, what do I need? Because often what will happen is you might need that quiet time for learning and say, okay, well, I'm just going to put the headphones in and listen to the lesson, but you're not really absorbing it in the way you need. And then you get frustrated and resentful because it's not working out. So it's just asking yourself before you set the goal, what do I want it to look like for me? But also giving yourself the grace of, like, in some seasons, like the summer for me, for example, audiobook has been pretty much the learning I do. I've been watching, like I said, this decluttering course. And I watch it like while I work out in the morning. Like and that's just how I'm doing it. And then I know when September starts, I'm going back for another certification for life coaching, like a specialty cert. And I'm going to put a specific block to sit and watch. It just depends on your season.
Yeah. And moms were multitaskers. So I'm the same. I'm like doing my workout, listening to my audiobook, and then it's like, 30 minutes of getting two things in.
Yeah. And it's better to do it than, I think one of the root problems that the moms who come with me have is this perfectionism, right? It is better to do something than wait for the time to be perfect, to sit at my computer where no one is bothering me, where I can take a class like I'm in college, right? Yeah, that'd be great. But I would rather say, what can I do with the 15 minutes that I have instead of living in this like negative fixed mindset way of, well, it's not perfect, so it doesn't even matter. Because it does matter, and it will add up.
That's a good point. That's a question I get a lot on my Instagram page. People are like, oh, you're always working out. Like how? Like you have like a million things going on with your kids are always home. And I'm like, you have to embrace imperfect conditions. Like sometimes I get a workout in and it's amazing. I like hit a new time, whatever. And other times I have a kid climbing on me. And other times I'm feeling kind of tired. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to jog in place instead of do burpees. And it's like, but if I take all those minutes that I did imperfect workouts with my kids fighting and me doing jogging in place instead of burpees, it's a massive amount of.
And it's enough.
It
is enough, I think. I need to hang it up because we just redid this room, but we have a saying here at APDM called intentionally imperfect. And that is just embracing the fact that it's not going to be perfect, but making a plan for it. Like Anna saying, like, I know that this is going to happen. We call them when the poop hits the fan moments. So I have a plan for when my kids interrupt my workouts. And actually right now, so I didn't know that pencils come pre-sharpened. Like I didn't pay attention to the box. So I bought all the pencils for school, not sharpened. So I was like, great. And it's funny because I talked to one of my teammates and she was like, oh, I returned those and I got the real ones. And I was like, no, I'm going to delegate it to my kids because they think it's so fun to use the sharpener. So what my kids have been doing when they are coming in, because I work out in the morning to work out like in here with me here, they're sitting here sharpening their pencils for school. Right? I'm delegating it to them. I've got a plan for them. Is it ideal? Do I want me time? And yes, I do. But I would rather do something imperfectly than wait for the perfect conditions because it's not going to happen like that.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So obviously Cara is just a fountain of so much good knowledge. She does a lot of summits similar to this on a much more massive scale with a lot of other fantastic speakers who, have expertise in other areas, and specifically in routines and stuff like that. So I would definitely check Cara's website and Instagram page after this to see other ways you can learn from her and some of her connections. So Cara, do you want to tell us where everyone can find you?
Yeah, sure. So if you are a podcast listener, head over to wherever you podcast, search Purpose Driven Mom Show, and it will come up for you. We have twice a week episodes and quick tips on how to manage your home, your goals, and your time. My book, it's called The 15-Minute Formula. So you can go to the15minuteformula.com/free. There's a workbook that's free, and then it links over to the book, the audiobook, whatever you want for that. And then I'm a purpose-driven mom everywhere else on the internet. And yeah, Facebook groups. So you can search Purpose-Driven Mom Community if you want to come hang out with us for free in that group.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, I will be dropping the link to her freebie in the group, and then it will also be emailed out later today. So if you're signed up for the summit, you'll get that via email. And if you're in the group, you will see it right there on the page.
Awesome.
Thank you, Cara.
Yep. Have a good one.